All right, guys, today we got a 2007 Chrysler Sebring with a 2.4 liter in it. It's a crank, no start. Got to get it figured out. Micah's going to help. Let's get into it. We came out here. We're going to do a video on that Dodge truck. I don't really know what's wrong with that Dodge truck, but look for a video on that.
It starts and shuts off.
Starts and shuts off, okay. And this one's in the way. So rather than just pushing this one out of the way, we're like, okay, let's find out what's going on with this. Hopefully, be something straightforward. And give an opportunity to teach old Mac Man here what we're looking for in a crank no start. What do we got to have for a car to start, Micah, for the engine to start? Do you know?
Battery?
I got to have a battery, all right. What's the 4 things we got to have? I like that. You got to have a battery that works. You got to have spark for the spark plugs, right? You got to have fuel, right? We got to have gas going in it, right? We got to have, what else? Compression. The engine's got to be able to build pressure inside of it, right? Okay, to be able to fire the spark and fire the gas, right? And then we got to have it all at the right time. That's what we got to have. So we're missing something on this thing, right? All right, let's get to it. Go pop the hood for me. Watch that door. Watch that door on that truck. There you go. Let's hear it spin over. Let's let your dad get in there and hear it spin over, and I'll hold the camera. Okay. So did you hear the way it sounded? Like it was like if it goes really quick, or if it goes then that would be a compression issue. Okay. This doesn't sound like that. We don't know 100%, but I'm going to go ahead and do my normal quick tests. I already brought stuff out here because I figured it was a crank no start. We'll go ahead and get prepped. We're going to see, except for I didn't bring out the torque socket for that. Let me go grab that real quick. All right. So we're going to check for spark. I already see we got some oil down in there. We're going to look for a little blue spark to go right there. And just so you know, for future, you can't really use a spark plug. So you can't take a spark plug out and put it in there and see if it sparks. Because a spark plug might spark, and that doesn't mean it actually has spark, because it doesn't have a lot of room, a lot of gap to jump, because the spark plug gap's only about that big. Okay, so it's very easy for that spark to happen. That makes sense?
Does spark make it where it explodes every time you turn it on?
Yes, it explodes inside the cylinder. It goes, yes. But that compression that comes up when that piston comes up, it presses everything together really hard, and it makes that electricity really hard. It has to work hard to jump that gap. So we're going to make this gap really big. Look how big that gap is. You've seen a spark plug. It's a real tiny gap, right? See what I'm talking about?
I don't remember.
Okay, we'll have to look at that. So we're going to make it jump that big gap right there. Okay? Make sense? All right. So what 2 things are we checking right now? Here is our injector to see if it's going to be turning on and off. There's our spark. Okay? What else do we got to have? Compression and fuel. So we're going to check our fuel right here. I hope this is going to fit. Let me move you over. I want you to back away just for a second over by your dad, just in case it's got pressure in it. I want you to back away.
Have we ever been out here and filmed and not had weed eating in the background?
Never. I mean, everywhere we go.
Yeah.
All right. This is going to check our fuel pressure. Okay. So now we're going to have fuel pressure Are we getting fuel up here to this rail? Do we have spark? Or I'm sorry, do we have fuel injector pulse? Will the fuel injector actually shoot the fuel into the engine? Okay, and we're going to see if we have spark. The two things you don't want to miss or mix together are the fuel and the spark out here. That's a bad day. What'll happen?
It will explode.
Catch on fire. Yeah. So, we're good though. Let's back away just a little bit. Let's see what we got or what we're missing. Got spark. Okay. So it was sparking. We had spark here. We had injector pulse. And we had fuel pressure. Okay. So, and it sounds like we have compression. We can check that. Sounds like we do. So what are we missing? When does it all have to happen? At the right what? At the right time. Exactly. So, must not be happening at the right time. So now we got to figure out why that is. That's going to get a little more complicated. What we're going to do now,
You're gonna scan it.
probably a good idea would be to scan it. Let's see if we got any codes in it. Here's our codes. We got thermostat, evap system. Those are stored. Not worried about that. Intake manifold, runner control, stuck open. I can't see where that's going to cause a no start. Right wheel speed, again, stored. And that's not going to cause a no start anyway. Intake manifold runner position sensor. Okay, well, we got 2 intake manifold runner problems. Bless you, Micah. Cooling system, that's going to be because of the thermostat. Engine throttle control system, bank 1 forced. That's a stored code. Speed control switch 1-2 correlation active. P0585. Let's see what that is. I have no idea. P0585. Let's do a little research on a P0585 on this thing, and then we'll come back and see what our next step's going to be. Went and looked up the P0585. That's got something to do with the speed control switch. I mean, just exactly what it says. Speed control switch. Well, that's cruise control. Nothing to do with this engine not starting. I was going to go to the cam crank sensors and get back, scope into those and see what the cam crank correlation was. The crank sensor, we're out here in the parking lot. The crank sensor is not easy to get to when you're not on a rack. So on a rack, I think we're going to be able to get to it from the bottom. The cam sensors are easy to get to. I just want to know, is the ignition timing correct? It doesn't sound like it's out mechanically out of time, but ignition timing, I was wondering if it's off. So I'm able to do that with a scope. What I've got is in-cylinder pressure on cylinder number 1, and I'm back probed into the coil to see when it fires. And I'm able to pull that up on a scope. So let's take a look at that. We can see our compression, first of all, sitting up here, over 155. So we're fine there, cranking compression, that's perfectly good. So we're definitely not low on compression. It sounds like an even cadence across the engine. There's that can. I've got my cursor straight down through the top dead center mark right here. And so the pink line that's right here is running straight down top dead center. If I blow up onto this red line, the red circuit or red channel is our ignition for cylinder 1. And we can see that thing is firing pretty much. I'll go grab this cursor. Pretty much like dead at top dead center, maybe at like half a degree before top dead center. I believe that's, if it was a running engine, we're going to want to see that thing before top dead center. But cranking, I think that's going to be okay. The spark plugs in this thing, when I pulled the spark plug out, I don't know if you see that, it is completely fuel fouled. So it's bad. What I want to do is, I think I can make this engine run right now. I think the problem that caused this engine to not start was at some point we either lost spark or the spark timing went out enough to fuel foul the spark plugs, and now the problem's not there anymore. And I think we clean these spark plugs up and it's going to start and run. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take these. I have an old school spark plug cleaner. I'm going to take these things, clean these spark plugs up. Let's get them back in there. Let's see if this thing will run, and then we've got to find the underlying cause. Spark plug goes in looking like that. There it is. 3 spark plugs are back in it. I've left the 4th one out because I still want to have my end cylinder. I want to see what it's doing here. So everything is connected the same way that it was. I'm going to go ahead and start the scope and let Sherwood try to start the vehicle. Is that good there? Should be good, I think. See what happens, Micah. Okay. Did not work out at all like I thought it was going to. That's okay. It's broken. That's a good thing. Well, it's got to be a timing issue. And it's not a mechanical timing issue. This has got to be an ignition timing issue. What I'm going to do is we're going to get this thing on a rack. We're going to get into the cam and crank sensors and get a correlation on that. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the in cylinder. I'm going to go, everything that I've got hooked up, we're going to continue to have hooked up, and we're going to get the 3 signals from the cam sensor and both the cam sensors and the crank sensor. That way we can kind of see how everything lines up, because something is causing. I've never seen one at 0 top dead center, but I feel like it should be okay. But you know, usually you're going to be before top dead center, and maybe I'm misthinking about that. Maybe it needs to be a little bit before even with cranking. So clearly it's off. Clearly something's wrong here. So let's go ahead and get that other data, and then we'll move forward and we'll find the problem. I got the cam crank signal. We actually were able to do it in the parking lot. Didn't have to put it on the rack. I went to the PCM, got it, and so at that point I had the cam crank signal. I have the in-cylinder compression on 1. I went ahead and got into the injector on 1, and I got the spark on 1. I pulled it all up and I started looking at it, and I did. Let me show you what I did, and let me show you where we're going next, because it's not ignition timing that we're going to. That 0 degrees is perfectly fine. We're going to something completely different here. Let me show you how I got there. I have a second version of the ATS software, the scope software, on this computer. And so the reason I have that is so that I can pull up known goods on things. So this is a known good crank cam correlation on the same vehicle. And if we look at it, I've got this kind of set up where you can see it's 5. If you count right here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teeth over is where this one starts. And you know, if we get that one right, and then this one's in the right spot here, then we're good. Here is all the data that I've got on this vehicle. Let's go ahead real quick. I'm just going to show you just so you guys can see it. I'm going to turn everything off except the cam crank. If we go in, we blow this up. There, I mean, that's almost perfect with the other one. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same spot. Everything looks good right here. If we go over and just kind of see where we're at there, you can see that they are really right on the money. There's no issues there. Hope you guys can see that. There's not a problem with this vehicle on the cam crank correlation. And also, as a side, because this is a known good car. Let me zoom out just a little bit. There is our spark right there. That little blue piece right there is our spark. So if we come over here and we put our red on, all right, let's see here. I gotta zoom out to full. Now, let me go ahead and blow up into one of these so that you can see that spark come across. Just kind of show you guys kind of how my brain works. Blow that up. Okay. See where that spark fired right there? And you see where it's fired right there. So pretty much, if we want to look at the time of this and the time of this, it's the same. So we know it's not a cam crank correlation problem. There's no issue with that. There's no issue with the ignition timing. While I have this up, and this is why I like having so many channels, and I like to just get into stuff and just, you know, you never know what you're going to see. Look at what we found here. So I'm just going to go in. So again, in cylinder, we all know that. And then we've got our cam crank down here. We've got our ignition there, and here's our fuel injector. And right off the bat, that fuel injector is incredibly long on time. I saw that, and I'm like, that's just too long. So I grabbed the cursors, came over, and popped one there, popped one there. That's 5.5 milliseconds. That's a massive amount of on time right here. When we go back and zoom out to full, I mean, you can see it. I mean, just in this picture right here, you can see that thing is just absolutely, it's just too wide. If you see some of these, you'll get to know that. But 5.5 milliseconds of on time for a fuel injector is a massive, massive amount of on time. And then we got some little anomaly going on over here where it's like something happened right there, and something happened to the one next to it. Yeah. Now we got to figure out why that injector on time is so wide. So we're going to do that with a scan tool. We're going to jump out here. I've got some ideas in my head that will cause this, and it's temp sensors. Temp sensors is my first thing that I'm going to go to. Intake air, coolant temp. I want to do barometric pressure. I don't know, you know, just I want to look at anything to do with when this thing keys on. It goes into this base settings. It looks at all the data that it can get on base settings. It's not looking at O2 sensors, right? It's not looking at any, you know, it's got no feedback. It's not, you know, it's basically keyed on, and then we went, okay, I'm going to put this much fuel in. I'm going to set the timing to here. So it's looking at some sensors there, and the big one is temp sensors for this thing. Let's jump out there. Let's get the scanner in it. Let's see what they are. I'm getting the data PIDs that I want pulled up right now. And remember, when you're looking at any temperature sensors, coolant, intake air, pressure sensors even, vehicle hasn't been run. If it's not running, those, and it has not been started, all of your temperature sensors should be pretty close to each other. All of your pressure sensors should be pretty close to each other. We're not looking at pressure right now, but we're going to look at baro just because I want to see that. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, it's about to get loud because he's about to do it. He's about to do his little blower over there. We got one that's just glaringly obvious right now. Here's our ambient. Why is this not working? Okay, here's our ambient. It's 70 degrees out here right now. It's a nice morning. Look at our coolant temp, minus 36. Right, so we've got intake air is good, ambient's good. The other coolant, looks like it's got 2 coolant temp sensors. That one looks fine. This is our problem right there. We've seen this a lot if we think about how a coolant temp sensor interacts with the PCM. Go back in time for those of you that are old enough to remember this. We used to have cars with chokes on them. At one point we had manual chokes, right? And then we had to pump the gas a couple times, throw a little extra fuel in there, close the carburetor, the air flap, choke flap, and then over time it would warm up and open up. This is kind of like a choke on an old carbureted engine. When the PCM thinks that the engine is cold, it's going to add more fuel. It thinks it's at minus 40 degrees. This thing's going to be dumping a lot of fuel in there. Now, we don't know if it's a sensor or connecting issue. We're going to have to get out here and take a look at that. So let's get out under the hood and let's take a look at what we're up against. I looked up to find where the coolant temp sensor was located because there's 2 of them, so I want to make sure we got the right one. It's super easy to get to. It's right here on the very, very top. So here we are. And I've got, now we're down here, you know, again, way down, minus 31 degrees, negative 31 degrees. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wiggle this, and I'm just going to see if it changes the temperature reading. No, it doesn't. All right, let's unplug it and watch that temperature. Yeah, so it goes to almost minus 40. Minus 40 is kind of the old default when this thing... You know what? Let's do this real quick. There's our voltage. Let's wiggle that around. Okay. All right. I mean, it's dry. Dry as a bone. Okay. All right. One trick here when you're doing this is to look at your voltage as well as your temperature reading. Chrysler is one that's notorious for this, but other manufacturers do it too. They will substitute a number into that data PID for the temperature. So you might see that the data PID says, it'll take the other ones like 71 degrees, 71 for other coolant, 71 for the ambient, 69.8 for the intake air, and it might go, oh, I'm just going to put a number in there, just a made up number that looks right. But if you look at your voltage will always be the right number. And you've got to remember, you're dealing with a 0 to 5 volt input to this thing. If it's sitting up there like this one, when we plugged it in, we're sitting up at almost 5 volts, we're at 4.9 volts. You're just not going to be there unless it's minus 40 degrees outside or whatever. So you can look at that and kind of go, yeah, that's off. Look at your other voltages on your other sensors. Your coolant temp sensor 2 is sitting at 3.72 volts, right? And that would be more in the middle range of that sensor's range that it uses. I did look up to see, while we were looking up to see where this thing was located, if there's any kind of resistance values for that. There's clearly resistance values for it somewhere. I looked in all data. I looked in Identifix to see if anybody had, if the OE had something, and nobody shows. I couldn't find anything that said these are the temperature, this is the resistance value in relationship to the temperature. Most of the time what they would have back in the day was a little chart, 68 degrees, the resistance will be this, right? Whatever, the ohm reading. And 105 degrees, it'll be that. 180 degrees, it'll be that. I can't find that anywhere. This thing is really, really easy to get to. All I have to do is I'm going to get a sensor. I don't even have to install it. I can just plug it in. And if I plug it in and it reads correct, then it's the sensor. If I plug it in and it doesn't, because this car, if you look at it, there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's a lot of wiring and stuff going on here. So it could potentially be a wiring issue between that sensor connector and the PCM. But at this point, my next test is going to be to plug in a known good one, just because it's going to be way quicker and easier than me trying to figure out what the resistance values are. Are we getting voltage drops across this and that? So I'm just going to plug one in here and let's see what the number goes to. Got the new sensor here. We don't have a lot of choices on parts on this vehicle, but this one should be fine. Very unique little design here. It's just going to twist in, but I'm not even going to do that yet. We've got our data pulled up and we're just going to plug it in. Let's see what happens. Look at there, beautiful. 77.9 degrees. That's simple.
Let's start it up.
I wish that I would have looked at all the temperature sensors. It's kind of one of my first things I do. I just thought this was ignition. Okay. I think I can.
You know what? You got to teach Micah some stuff, and
yeah, I did get to teach Micah some stuff and everything, so that's actually good. Now I got to tell him you got to have the right amount of fuel. So I don't know if this thing's just going to twist out. No, I'm probably going to need to put a little more oomph in it than that. Let's start it up. All right.
they're probably wondering why the scanner's plugged in.
Yeah, we don't know why it's not connecting to this thing. I got to call them and find out. We'll get it fixed. All right. Might have to clean the spark plugs again. Let's find out. Yeah, it's going to take it a minute to clear out.
There you go.
Let it just kind of do its thing for a minute.
It's fixed.
I can look at ejector pulse width on here. But there it is. I do not want to get this hot, because we got to change that sensor. I don't want to get that pressurized. That's the fix though, guys. I will pull up real quick. Actually, let me show you real quick. And you know, this is one of those situations where we saw the fouled spark plugs, but we thought, you know, we didn't really have anything to point us in the direction of that sensor. Look at that sensor. That sensor was bad. There were no codes for that sensor.
Only the cooling system performance one.
Cooling system performance and a PO128, which most people would say that's a thermostat code, the thermostat code. And it usually is, but that's, you know, perfect example of, you know, again, we didn't go down the wrong path or anything. We just had to, not showing me that.
I mean, how we got the data originally, but we would have just, what would lead us to that direction is the thing, you know?
Yeah, when I saw it on the screen, then it's like, yeah, that makes. So let's see if I can't. Oh, let's do this. Let's try something. Let's show everybody. Let's plug the other one back in. Although it's going to start right away on the other one. So let's plug this one back in. And you know, guys, this is what you do when you're wanting to figure out what things should be, and you know, yeah. But a lot of times it's like, I got to get in, I got to get out, got to fix these things, got to go. Sometimes you want to just go back and go, okay, how could I have looked at this quicker? So now I've got the injector pulse width for cylinder number 1 up. It's gonna guarantee it's not gonna run good now. Well, it's gonna run all right now with that, probably, because, let's see here. There we go. All right, 104, 94, 96 milliseconds, 86 milliseconds. That's a massive amount. All right, now let's go out. Show you how I'm gonna do this. I'm going to put this sensor back on it. Now, how am I going to get it not to crank, not to start, is I'm going to disconnect the coils. Otherwise, it's just going to fire right up. I don't want to do this for long, but I want to see what the injector pulse width shows now. Now on the scanner, it's showing 8.7, 7.9, massively lower. Now, you remember when I showed you on the scope, it was like 5 milliseconds, something like that. Yeah, that's going to be different than what's on the scanner. This thing, that's a good way. Now we know in the future we can look at it and go, okay, well, it's going to show, you know, crazy high, massively high pulse width on the scanner. I have to look up why that does that. Why does it show so high on the scanner? But anyway, that's it. I'm going to pop this sensor in there, and then this car's going to be fixed. Good to go. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Maybe a little longer route than we would have liked to have taken to get the answer, but hopefully some of the tests that we ran will give you some, you know, good tools to use in your arsenal for down the road when you're diagnosing stuff. Look at that fuel injector pulse width. Once you look at a lot of diagrams, or a lot of waveforms, you'll start to see stuff like that will pop out at you. That's why I love a scope. It's pictures, and we can see it, and we can go, oh, that doesn't look right. But hopefully that does help you guys. If it did, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you know when we drop a video. We're trying to do them three times a week now. And leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this thing. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next one.